Hey everybody, we're back for another What You Need to Know video. We're going to focus this one on New Mexico. The deadline for New Mexico is March 20th. And unlike some of the other states, it's not a midnight deadline. You actually have a time frame for this one. So it's going to be March 20th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So pay attention to that. If you're one of those that waits until the last second, you want to make sure it's not midnight. It is 5 p.m. Two ways to apply for New Mexico. You can either do it online or you can actually do it over the phone. I would recommend to most folks to go ahead and get online, set up your account, and do the application process via the web. I would recommend doing it online versus the phone. Biggest reason behind that is with your profile on the website, you can at least have the chance to go back and see what you applied for last year, this and that. It just makes it a lot easier for years to come. So two ways to apply, online, or you can actually do it over the phone. So with your applications, one of the biggest questions we get is, do you have to purchase a hunting license in order to apply? And the answer to that is yes. It's actually pretty user-friendly, comparatively speaking, with other states. They're a lot cheaper to do so. Your hunting license for a non-resident is going to be $65, and for a youth hunter, it's only $15. So, for example, I mean, if you picked another state, Oregon, you're looking at $160 plus or minus for a non-resident hunting license just to apply. So the cost here to apply is a lot more user-friendly, $65 and $15. So when it comes to your youth hunters, they don't have any age restrictions in New Mexico. So some states, they might say 10 to 15. With New Mexico, as long as your kid or your nephew or the youth, whoever the youth is, as long as they have completed hunter safety and they have a hunter safety certificate, they're old enough to apply and go hunting with an adult or mentor in New Mexico. One of the other questions that we get in regards to applying is the cost, the full cost, upfront cost. So we already talked about you have a non-resident, non-refundable hunting license that you have to buy in order to apply. You also have a $13 application fee for each species that you apply for. So if you apply for 5 species, 13 times 5 is also going to be added. The other biggest thing would be the license cost or the permit fee. So you have to upfront all of that at the beginning with New Mexico. So kind of like Wyoming, if you watch the Wyoming video, New Mexico does have upfront costs. It's the cost of the hunting license, the application fee, and the full species license or permit fee for that particular animal. So in terms of fronting up the whole cost in order to apply, you can do that either via debit card or credit card. One thing you would want to pay attention to when it comes to that is make sure that card is good through the entire draw process. So make sure you check your expiration dates, all that stuff. So you will front the money at the beginning for license, app fees, and permit costs. If you draw, then those costs are obviously well paid for. If you don't draw, you get everything but your hunting license and your application fees back. So it is refundable. It will go back to that card that you used to apply with. So one of the other questions that we get when it comes to New Mexico is the different types of hunt categories. You might see this in the regs under the different costs, or when they highlight it further in the regs for each species, you have a standard, you have a high quality, and a high demand hunt. The biggest difference between the different categories from your standard to high quality or high demand is really just the cost. So for the standard hunts in New Mexico, they're a little cheaper, but those hunts are more tailored to opportunity, not necessarily quality of animals. And don't get me wrong, they're still very good hunts. They're just not your quality units or quality hunts. The high quality hunts are going to be more expensive, and those are really tailored to better quality of animals, better season dates. In my eyes, or in my opinion, it's more like it's weighing general tags to limited quota tags. The high demand hunts are actually hunts that have held a certain amount of applicants or an increasing amount of applicants over the last couple of years. So you'll see some hunts move into what they would call a high demand hunt. And those also They're a little more expensive, but the quality of the hunt itself is there. So another popular question that we get about New Mexico, and one of my favorites, is the draw system. How does the draw system work? So one of the best parts, in my opinion, about New Mexico is the fact that they do run off of a random draw system. So there's no points whatsoever. Everybody's on the same playing field, and you have a certain amount of tags, you have a certain amount of applicants, and best of luck to everybody. So there's always a chance, and especially with New Mexico, you have so many different species to choose from, and a lot of times random draws will scare folks from even applying. So you'll notice when you dive into your draw odds page on your insider account, there are some really good units that have really good odds. And like I said, it's a shot in the dark. So take a chance. If you can afford the upfront costs, in my opinion, it's a really good state to take a chance at, whether that's elk, whether that's deer, or even your exotics. It's, in my opinion, if you can do it, if you can front the money for a little bit, it's worth taking a shot. So as far as the draw goes and your application, you have technically 5 choices on your application. The ones that I would really recommend folks to pay attention to the most is your first 3. So your first 3 choices get looked at prior to them moving on to a different application. So when you apply, you want the first 3 choices to be the hunts that you want. You can put a 4th choice on there, but I would caution folks on that. Is the 4th choice and beyond are for units that are undersubscribed or that don't get drawn out. And in doing so, really what you're doing is you're telling the state, hey, for this species, whether it's bull or cow, would say elk, for instance, saying I would like an elk hunt for my 4th choice. You might not even get the hunt choice that you put down for your 4th. You're willing to accept any tag that they put in your pocket. And that, like I said, that could be a bull tag, could be a cow tag. So I would really recommend folks, especially if you're not familiar with their draw system and you're still getting used to it, I'd really focus on the first 3. To me, I wouldn't necessarily want a tag that I didn't put on my application. So when I do it, I put in for my first 3, that's it. And there's a way that you would like to tailor those first 3 especially. So it kind of works in the same way that Nevada does, where you want the hardest to draw unit that you want on the application first. So when they pull your application, they're going to look at your first choice. If there's enough tags to satisfy you, they're going to give you a tag and you just drew your first choice. If not, they're going to go to your second choice, see if there's enough tags. If not, they're going to go to your third choice. Oh, there's enough tags, you get your third choice. So that's why I say if you have a top 3 hunts in New Mexico and you really want the best hunt possible, you want that first. It would really not make any sense to draw a lesser hunt before the one that you really desire. So you don't want that at the bottom. You want the hunt that you desire the most at the top, first choice, second choice, third choice, and that's how you would stagger your application. And once again, they'll look at all 3 choices before they move on. If you get a tag, sweet. If not, then that means those top 3 units or whichever ones that you picked have already drawn out and they're moving on. Another good question about New Mexico that we get is about the tag allocation. What is the split? So they split it into 3 different categories. They have a resident, non-resident, and guided allocations. And your residents soak up about 84% of the total tag allocations. Your non-residents, you guys are tailored to about 6%. And the guided draw, which we'll discuss further, it has 10% of the tag allocations. So it's an 84-10-6 split. So as far as the guide draw in New Mexico works, if you do decide to apply in the guided draw, there's a couple things that you need to do prior to. One is you need to get it set up with a guide or outfitter in New Mexico in order to apply. You need to have a written agreement with the guide, and a lot of times the outfitters and guides will help walk you through the process of applying with the guide to be entered into the guide draw. There's pros and cons as far as applying in the guide draw. A pro would be you get 10% allocation versus 6% as far as putting in. So in a lot of times, if you look at the draw odds, you have better odds in the guided draw than you do in some of the non-resident units. The downside is you do have to apply with a written agreement from your guide or outfitter, meaning we're now making things just a little bit more expensive. But if you can stomach the cost, or if you have the ability to do so, and the money's not that big of a deal, then it's definitely worth it. You definitely have better odds and a shot at drawing a good tag. Some other caveats as far as the guide pool. If you apply in the guide pool, and if you're successful in the guide pool, you have to hunt 2 full days with a guide before you can go out and do anything on your own. So it really is tying you down to applying with an outfitter, drawing, and hunting with an outfitter. So the costs are definitely going to be a little more expensive. But if like I said, if that's right up your alley, you can afford to do it, then that's probably a better option to draw some tags in New Mexico. One last thing I'd like to add about the guided pool is that's available to residents and non-residents. And it doesn't necessarily affect allocations too much. If you really go into your insider account and you dive into the draw odds, you still, in most cases, have better odds within the guided pool, even though both residencies are in it. So, like I said, if you're able to do so, it's worth taking a look at, and maybe that might be an option for you this coming season. Another thing that gets brought up or questions are about group applications. So yes, you can apply together as a group in New Mexico, and once again, it's a completely random state, so you don't even have to worry about points. You guys, obviously, everybody has the same. So you can put in as a group. For deer, elk, antelope, and Barbary sheep, you can apply as a party of 4, and for oryx, you're allowed to apply as a party of 2. Another thing you should be aware of is New Mexico does not over-allocate, unlike Wyoming, where if there's 1 tag available, 4 people are in a party. If yours gets drawn in Wyoming, everybody gets tagged, not New Mexico. So pay attention to tag numbers when you apply. Let's say you're putting in for a unit with low numbers. Be very aware that if there's 1 tag available and 4 get drawn, then they move on to the next application. Nobody gets a tag. So they will not over-allocate. So keep that in mind when you're making decisions. When you get online to apply as a party, the group leader will get on, select apply as a party, go through the application. And when he does that, you'll get a group number. And if there's other people that would like to join your party or join your application, you give them the group number, they apply, they put in the group number, and they're now added on to that application. So it's a pretty simple process if that's something you want to do. But definitely do your research on the hunts themselves before you jump into applying as a party. So we've talked about applying, we've talked about hunt choices and everything else. So one thing I'd really like to point out to folks is New Mexico does not have a tag return process. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, depending on your situation. If you draw, great, we're going hunting, you're going to have a phenomenal hunt. If you draw, but you either can't make it on the hunt, you can't turn that tag back, it's yours. Once you draw it, it's yours, and all the costs incurred through that are yours. There are some extreme cases, but those would have to be determined or figured out with the state if that ever did come about. Bottom line, no tag returns. If you draw, it's yours. Good luck. Kill something big. So that leads us into landowner tags. In New Mexico, there is a pile of landowner tags for deer, elk, and antelope. So let's say you go through the whole draw process, and like most of us, you get your results, and it just says unsuccessful across the board. All right, well, you still got other states out there that you can apply for, but if you strike out everywhere and you're still looking to scrounge or find something, New Mexico does have a lot of landowner tags. They're very, very generous in that field. You can also find these tags on other websites. They're kind of all over the place. And a lot of them are actually very, very good. Some are private land specific, and some are unit-wide. So that's another option that I would suggest folks look into. So it's not all doom and gloom if results come out and they're not in your favor. There's still plenty of opportunities, especially within New Mexico. And lastly, I'd like to touch on the exotic species. So New Mexico offers something that, except for Texas, nobody else has. They have a couple exotic species that they do offer. You have Barbary sheep, you have oryx, and you have ibex. Now, granted, the price tags on those are a little high, but if you can stomach the upfronts And if it's something that you ever wanted to check off your bucket list, once again, it's a completely random shot. And if you can afford to either sit on the money for a little bit, or if you can afford to take the chance, take the chance. I've never drawn one. I mean, we know folks that have. If you can roll the dice, I'd do it. I'd recommend it for sure. Okay, so to wrap some of this up, biggest thing, March 20th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time is your application deadline. So do yourself a favor, get online, get your account set up, make sure your credit cards are all in order, and don't miss the deadline. Overall, I think New Mexico is a phenomenal state, especially for elk and antelope. They definitely have some great numbers. They have great quality. Your deer is nothing to shy away from either. The opportunity for some really great deer hunts are there, and they also offer the exotics. So if you're into the random odds and you're into playing the game, seeing what happens, taking a chance, I think New Mexico is a great state to take a chance on. One thing I'd recommend before we go is hop into your insider account, look at the draw odds, look at your non-resident odds, look at your guided odds. Like I said, if you wanted to go the guided direction, that is a really good option in New Mexico. But if you got any questions as the application deadline comes up, feel free to either comment below, email in, give us a phone call. We'll try to do what we can. Look forward to the application strategy for this as well. That should be coming out here shortly. So good luck to everybody.